The foundation factors we suggest need to be in place to achieve optimal health. And if you leave one of them out, it's not going to work. Pain is a message from your subconscious to your conscious mind to make you aware that there's a problem. But for me, the most important thing is you will have a better quality of life.
Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to the I Am Painfree podcast. I've got an awesome guest today, Leigh Brandon, a true pioneer in the world of holistic health and wellness. Leigh's journey from a traditional office job to becoming a renowned functional medical practitioner and CHEK practitioner, an active release technique therapist, is really nothing short of inspiring. And in this episode, Leigh takes us into a deep dive into the interconnected world of physical, nutritional, and emotional well-being. He'll share his insights from decades of experience helping tackle clients' chronic pain, gut health issues, and even skin conditions, utilizing natural solutions that aim to heal at the root level. So this is awesome stuff. As a host of the Radical Health Rebel podcast and a faculty instructor at the CHEK Institute, Leigh offers a rare blend of practical advice and cutting-edge health practices that empower people to reclaim their health. If you've ever wondered how your thoughts, nutrition, movement, and sleep work together to impact your well-being, guess what? We're going to talk about that and how to move away from that dependency on pharmaceuticals. All right, this conversation is for you. So Leigh's story is inspiring and take you to a place where you can be in charge of your health journey and explore holistic ways to become vibrant, energetic version of yourself. So let's get ready to learn how to exit the old you and embrace a life that's pain-free naturally. Welcome to Leigh. Hey, welcome to another episode of the I Am Pain-Free podcast. I'm your host, Rob Renee. And today I have a fun guest. We've got Leigh Brandon. So Leigh, all the way from the UK. So Leigh, how are you?
Great. Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. It's going to be a really fun conversation. So just researching a little bit about you is I really like your story and the things that you're doing. So I'd love for you to educate my audience. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and then how did you get into doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so it goes back quite a few years. Back in the early 90s, I was typical office job, wasn't really doing what I really wanted to do, but didn't know what I wanted to do. And at the time I was working out in a gym, and there was a couple of personal trainers there, and we were chatting one day and we were having dinner, and the guy said, "How do you know all this stuff?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were, "We went to Loughborough University, the top sports university in the UK. We've both got first class degrees in sports science. And you're talking to us like you were in our class." And I just said, when I do something, I do it properly. So I just used to read and read. They said, "Why don't you do what we do?" And that for me was a light bulb moment in my life. And I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute. But even though I had a really good job, really well paid, really low stress, I was thinking I could impart my knowledge on people and help them in a gym environment. And that just seemed like a dream to me. So I then, when I got qualified, I worked as a personal trainer for 5 years. But my thirst for knowledge was still there. And I was helping people in the gym, but then there was people I couldn't help, like people that had injuries. And I was thinking, I need to learn more. So wherever I was working, people would come to me with questions. The other trainers, the other clients of other trainers would come to me and asking me questions.
Probably pissed off a lot of your other co-workers.
I don't think they cared, to be honest. But I kept thinking, I need a mentor. I need someone I can learn from. And so I thought, I'll go and work for a big chain of health clubs, and I'll be able to find someone to impart their knowledge on me. And literally in days of me even thinking that, I got a call from what was then the UK's biggest health club chain. And they said, "We've got your CV on our desk. We want you to come in for an interview," which was strange because I never sent them my CV.
Oh, wow. Really?
So anyway, cut a long story short, I worked for this health club chain for about 5.5 years, I think it was. And I went from being a personal trainer to a personal training manager to a regional personal training manager. And then we started what was called an academy. So we used to train all our trainers. So I literally trained thousands of personal trainers through this health club. But it got to a point where I was also training with an institute in the US, in California, called the CHEK Institute. and I was learning the most amazing stuff, but I wasn't really spending much time with clients, so I couldn't apply what I was learning because I was more of an educator, manager. So there came a point where I decided to leave the health club chain, leave getting a salary every month, and it was quite a nice salary every month. And I left, and I had nothing apart from the knowledge in my head. Basically, over time, my business started to grow, and I was pretty much attracting people in pain. That was the main thing I was attracting, which was interesting because as a trainer, that was the thing I realized I had a weakness in, was helping people that were in pain.
Right. It's amazing how that worked, right? Then you started with your thirst for knowledge. You've learned how to help people with that, right?
Absolutely. So I trained with the Czech Institute 5.5 years.
Okay.
And then I came out and I thought, I don't have any hands-on skills. So I would be referring lots of my clients to one of my colleagues who was a really good massage therapist. And I thought, you know what, I need to learn massage therapy. So I went to the same school that he went to, and he was actually one of the instructors. And while I was studying massage therapy, he was studying something called active release techniques, which is another American organization. And he started treating me with active release techniques. And I was thinking, wow, this is a different level. This is like massage on steroids. So I got to the point where I'm qualified in sports massage therapy, thinking, well, now I'm going to start offering massage to my clients as well. And I was still referring them to the same guy because he was now doing active release techniques. And I thought, I've got to learn that as well now. So then I learned that. But during this time as well, so when I trained with the Czech Institute, it wasn't just about exercise. It wasn't just about pain. It was also about high performance exercise. I've been working with a few elite athletes, even at Olympians. But it covers nutrition. It covers lifestyle. It's a real holistic system. But I also studied functional medicine in 2008, and I've studied a few forms of energy medicine as well. So I put a number of different modalities into what I offer my clients. Now, what I've come to do over the last 10 years is to focus on 3 areas. So one is chronic pain, one is gut health, and one is skin health.
Ah, beautiful.
Now,
beautiful.
The reason why I wouldn't say fallen into those 3 areas, but they're 3 areas that I suffered from myself, that I healed myself through. So I've always played sport. I've been playing sport for 51 years. Right?
Nice.
So I've had sports injuries along the way. I had a serious back injury 11 years ago. I completely ruptured one of the discs in my spine. The one below it was quite badly bulging as well. I couldn't walk.
How did you do that? What happened?
There was no event that happened. I just woke up one morning and I literally couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't stand up.
Serious?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
What often happens is with a lot of injuries, most injuries in fact, is that it's not one event that causes it. What it tends to be is wear and tear over time. So what we call micro trauma. So for instance, my disc in my spine, it didn't occur while I was in bed that night. It probably occurred over a 10-year period.
Interesting.
So growing up, I suffered badly with acne. So for 18 years, I had really bad acne. And what I didn't realize at the time, so my medical doctor was prescribing me a cream, a cleanser, and an antibiotic for 18 years, and it didn't work.
Wow.
And I kept taking them.
None of it helped?
And I kept taking them because I thought if I stop taking them, it's just going to get worse. And it wasn't until, again, through my Czech training, that I went and got some tests done and found out that I had a fungal overgrowth and I had a whole series of food sensitivities. And I changed my diet and my skin cleared up in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's amazing.
But what is also interesting, I find it interesting, is that for the first 30 years of my life, I didn't know I had constipation.
Oh, wow.
Because I thought if you had a bowel movement every day, then you're not constipated, right? Without getting too detailed, it would take a long time to have a bowel movement. Like 30 minutes was normal for me. It was hard to get them out.
Right.
And if anyone followed me into the bathroom, they'd need a machete to get through the atmosphere, right?
Wow.
Now, what was interesting is that as soon as I made changes to my diet that cleared my skin, my bowel movements became normal.
Whoa.
And if you rewind, so what I do now in any kind of situation where I'm helping clients, the key thing is to find out the cause or the causes of someone's condition. And in a lot of skin conditions, it's the gut that's the problem. So oftentimes the skin is merely portraying what's going on in the gut.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I'm like a health detective. So when someone comes to see me, I gather lots of information. Some of it, people question, why are you asking me these questions? I've got back pain. Why are you asking me about my bowel movements?
Exactly.
Or what happened to me when I was 2 years old or whatever. It's because I need as much information as possible, because gathering information on a person is like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. The more pieces you have, the bigger the picture you can see, and the easier it is to put the puzzle together. So I work very holistically. So as I said, from many different angles: exercise, nutrition, lifestyle, detoxification. I might use energy medicine, hands-on therapies. But the key is to find the root cause of the problem.
Amen.
And then,
amen. No, and not at least in the United States, it's not. They're not incentivized to do that at all. How about in London? Is it different?
no, it's
in
no
London?
different. It's no different here. It's no different here. I would say 90+% of my education is from the United States.
Wow, amazing.
I think the only, off the top of my head, the only qualifications I did that was an English organization was probably my sports massage qualification. Everything else I've done, I think, off the top of my head, is American.
That's good that there's people that are teaching the holistic and functional medicine and those types of things, because it's just so not prevalent here, which is something that I'm just excited that there are people like you that are going down this endeavor and really helping people, because it's so important, because most of the people in our world right now are taking a pill for an ill, right? And they're not looking at what's the underlying cause. And man, that's so refreshing to hear you say that, because I want to pat you on the back. Because thank you. We need more people like you. So I love, this is a great conversation. Let's help people at the root cause of their issue. And it's fascinating. I have talked a lot about gut health in the past, but never gut health to cure skin. That's an actual, that makes a lot of sense. So this is great. So thanks, Leigh, for what you do, just in general.
I couldn't do anything else. This is what I'm here for, right? This is what I was put on this planet to do, right?
I love it. I love it. God wired you that way, right? For you to be curious and want to know more. And then, it's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, right, so I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue your story. This is great.
Yeah, that's mainly my story. But one of the things that I think is important to get across to people, regardless of what symptom you have, whether it's pain, whether it's skin condition, whether it's a gut issue, whatever it might be, the important thing is to remember that if we focus on pain for a second, what pain is a message from your subconscious to your conscious mind to make you aware that there's a problem. Now, if we put it in simple terms, if you put your hand on something hot, you wouldn't consciously put your hand on something that's very hot, right?
Right.
So if you put your hand on something hot, you get a pain sensation. That's your subconscious mind making your conscious mind aware that your hand is getting burnt. So what do? You take your hand off, right?
Right.
So when we've got something going on in our body, so let's say my instance, I had lower back pain. My body was trying to tell me something. Okay. Now, one of my main teachers, Paul Chek, who I studied with for 5.5 years, he uses the concept of the pain teacher. What is the pain trying to teach you? Right? And it's, you have a car, most people have a car, you're driving along, your engine warning light comes on your dashboard. You think, there's something wrong with the engine. I need to take it to a mechanic. He can diagnose the problem and fix it, right? But what happens generally in the medical world when we get pain, so pain is your engine warning light. So you go along to a medical professional and they'll say, I've got just the thing for your engine warning light. Here's some black tape. Put it over the light.
That's right.
Probably. So have you fixed the engine? Well, no. So if you put black tape over the engine warning light and you keep driving the car, eventually the engine is going to have a serious problem, and probably you're not going to be able to fix it, right? It's the same thing with our bodies. If we ignore pain or any other symptom, or we try and mask the symptoms, the underlying root cause hasn't been dealt with. It's still going. So, I see a lot of people on social media with bad skin, with acne, and they're always asking things like, what product can I use for this? How long do I need to take this pharmaceutical for before it's going to work? Or I've taken this product and my skin's got worse. Is that normal? Now, the same things that cause acne can also cause things like cancer and heart disease and dementia. So even if you found this magic product that very rarely ever exists that cures your acne, let's say, but you don't treat the root cause of the problem, 20, 30, 40 years down the line, you could have a life-threatening illness caused by the same problem.
Right.
So rather than try and mask the symptoms now, why not get to the root cause of the problem and deal with it now?
It's beautiful. Yeah, totally agree. That's the problem is most people now, at least in the States, with my experience, they were like me when growing up. It was like, you trust the white coat, right? You go to the doctor and the doctor says, here's a pill for your ill. It's going to more than likely not solve the underlying problem. It's going to be like that, like you said, the black tape over the check engine light. So,
yeah, what I would say is I wouldn't be here now without modern medicine.
Right.
I was born with a condition called pyloric stenosis. So the pylorus is a valve that separates the stomach from the small intestine. And stenosis just means blockage. So I had a blockage between my stomach and my small intestine. Now, if I hadn't have been operated on at 6 weeks of age, I wouldn't have made 7 weeks of age.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I'm not saying modern medicine is a bad thing. In some instances, it's amazing.
Amen.
I had an incident last year paddleboarding, and I ended up in a hospital, and they were amazing. If you have a chronic ongoing condition, like ongoing pain, like a skin condition, like a gut issue, the only thing that medical doctors are trained to do is to treat the symptoms. And the way they treat the symptoms generally is with toxic pharmaceuticals.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Which don't treat the root cause of the problem. And then quite often, these pharmaceuticals have nasty side effects. So you go back to the doctor and they'll say, I need to give you a pharmaceutical to deal with that side effect. And then you're on what I call the pharmaceutical merry-go-round. And it can be very difficult to get off it. So if you treat the root cause from day one, then you won't have all this hassle. And not only will you not have the hassle, you'll overcome your pain or condition, whatever it might be. But for me, the most important thing is you will have a better quality of life.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
It's not about how many years you live, it's how many good years you live.
That's right. That's right.
You
So
know?
longevity doesn't matter if you're just sitting on the couch miserable. Living that existence is no fun for anybody. Yeah, I really like it. So let's talk about chronic pain for a minute, which obviously we focus a lot on pain with the I Am Pain-Free podcast, and a lot of the practitioners and stuff I've talked to talk about how important gut health is to chronic pain. You've already mentioned it a little bit, but let's just dive in a little bit specifically to pain in general. So how do you typically start working with people to try to identify the root cause of their pain? How do you start that process?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that I tend to do. So before I even have the first consultation with someone, they have to complete 16 questionnaires.
Okay, wow, 16 different ones or 16 questions?
16 questionnaires.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's thorough. So it goes through so many different areas of their life. But there's one questionnaire in particular, and it tabulates the amount of stress going on in different systems in their body, from gastrointestinal to liver, gallbladder, to hormones, to mood. Obviously, there's a few more for females because female hormonal system is a bit more complex than our simple system. The cardiovascular system, number of things. So I collate all this information, and then once I've got that information, I then assess them physically. So it normally takes me about 4 hours to assess someone physically. Now, I know most medical professionals get somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes per patient.
Right.
It probably takes me 1 to 2 hours to analyze their questionnaires, 4 hours to do the assessment, and then probably another 2 hours to analyze the information, and then maybe another 2 hours to write them a prescriptive exercise program. So from a physical level, what I do with their body is I find out areas of their body that's long and weak, and I'll make sure that they're strengthening those muscles, or muscles. If a joint is loose, then they're strengthening muscles across the joint. And then if there's areas that are tight, so if it's a tight muscle, I'm going to get them to stretch it. If it's a joint that's restricted, I'm going to get them to mobilize it. Now, the other thing that I use, again, this is devised by Paul Chek, it's called the Chek totem pole. And the totem pole is a level of systems, or a number of systems of the human body. And the ones that are, so they're in a hierarchy. So the one at the top is the psyche. And the sequence, or the higher in the totem pole, the more important that system is to survival. So the psyche is at the top because if you didn't want to live anymore, you could end it. Right. And then we've got breathing, and then you've got mastication, so it's all to do with the jaw and the teeth. Then you've got vision. Then you've got what's called the vestibular system, which is hearing and balance. You've got the upper part of the neck, the spine. You've got your internal organs. You've got emotions and stress. You've got your pelvic girdle, and right at the bottom, you've got what we call slave joints. So the slave joints are the rest of the spine, the arms and the legs. So when I'm doing my assessments, I'm looking to see what is highest on the totem pole, because if there's something out of balance on the totem pole, everything underneath it is going to compensate to try and keep that one in balance. So for instance, if someone had, let's say someone came in to see me and they had a painful knee. Now there's a multitude of potential causes that it could be. Okay. Now I'll just tell you one before I tell you how I work.
All right.
I had knee pain for about 2 years and I couldn't work out what was going on. And then I remembered, so I'd moved home and I changed my breakfast and I started eating porridge oats. And it was a few weeks after I moved that I started getting the pain in my knee. So I thought, this is interesting. Let me see what happens if I cut porridge oats out of my diet.
What is it called? Porridge what?
Oats, like oatmeal.
Oats. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We call it porridge over here.
Yeah, no worries. Gotcha.
So I cut it out of my diet, and within 2 weeks, all the pain had gone, and I had full range of motion in my knee. And I went back to playing tennis, absolutely no problem. So that's just one example of what it can be. So let's say someone comes to see me and they've got knee pain, and I do my assessment, and I find out they've got a crossbite in their jaw. So their jaw's like that, right? To survive in the wild, you need your teeth to be straight, because if they're crooked and you chew and you wear your teeth down, you can't chew anymore, you're going to die, right? So we're still primitive animals, really, just living in towns and cities, right? Our body doesn't know any different. So what the body will do to straighten the jaw, it will put the neck out of alignment because it's lower on the totem pole. Now, once you put the neck out, it puts torsion through the spinal cord, and the body doesn't like torsion through the spinal cord. So what it will do is it will twist the pelvis to straighten out the spinal cord. Now you've got a rotation in the pelvis. And on the side where the pelvis is tilting forwards, it's going to internally rotate the hip, which is going to put more stress through that knee. Right?
Wow.
So by checking everything on the totem pole, I would be able to find the root cause of the problem from a physical point of view. Now, it might not be a physical cause, but in some instances it is. So realign the jaw, and then obviously you need to make sure the rest of the body is aligned. But then what you'd probably find is the knee would go back to being normal, as long as you've caught it early enough. Obviously, if someone's worn half their knee away, then they might be beyond help.
Different story. Yeah.
But in most instances, once you realign the body, as long as it's purely a physical issue, then the pain will go away. And
That is fascinating.
I've done that hundreds of times with people. But there are many other potential causes. You were talking about gut health, and I was actually talking about this on my podcast with a guest earlier today. And one of the things that comes with pain is inflammation. Now, if you've got systemic inflammation, so inflammation through the whole body, you could end up with pain throughout the body. So that's what causes conditions like fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a leaky gut syndrome and you're also eating inflammatory foods and they're getting into the bloodstream, now you can be creating inflammation throughout the body and causing issues like fibromyalgia. So that's just one way in which a gut issue can cause pain. But there's another way, and this is when, again, you might be eating foods that are causing inflammation in the gut. Now, there's a mechanism called a viscerosomatic reflex. So viscero means organ, somatic means the musculoskeletal system. And everyone knows about it, but may not have just heard what it's called. So, for instance, one example is if you have a heart attack, you generally get symptoms down the left arm.
Okay.
That is a viscerosomatic reflex. Okay. Now, what happens when you have gut inflammation? So when the gut's inflamed, it will send a signal to the brain to say, look, there's an issue going on here. The brain will send a signal back down the same nerve pathway that supplies the organ. But when it comes out the spine, what it will do is it will tend to send a signal to the muscles surrounding the organs, and it gets them to relax. Okay. Now, if you think about when your bladder's full, you're really dying for a pee, the last thing you want is someone to come up and prod you in the abdomen, right?
That's true.
So when you've got an inflamed organ, the last thing you want is your muscles to be held tight because it's going to be uncomfortable on that organ, right? So that sounds good. But what it tends to do is it tends to inhibit what we call the type 1 or slow twitch muscle fibers in the abdominal wall. Now, it's those particular muscles and muscle fibers that stabilize the spine. They also stabilize the pelvis and they stabilize the rib cage. Now, your legs attach to your pelvis and your arms via the shoulder blade attached to the ribs. So these muscles are really important to stabilize your whole body.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we take the spine as an example, if those muscles aren't working properly, what you'll get, if these are two vertebrae and they're not stable, they're going to rub on each other. That's going to cause wear and tear, maybe in the disc, maybe in the joint. But over time, you'll get micro trauma. And then that might turn into a condition like a disc issue. You might have a fracture in the spine, which we call a spondylolysis. You might have what's called facet joint irritation, whatever it might be. And again, unless you track it back to, okay, so what caused the inflammation in the gut? Is it something you're eating? Almost certainly that's part of the role. If you've got any kind of dysbiosis in the gut, that can cause inflammation. Hopefully you're getting some idea of the complexity of pain. But what I see as my job is when I'm working with someone is to make the solutions as simple as possible. So I take care of the complexity and I leave the client with simplicity. So things that they can do in their everyday life to put it right.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So obviously you talk about exercise, right, as one of the first things that you help recommend, but then I'm assuming that you work on diet and other things to surround and complement whatever it is that you're trying to solve, right?
Yeah, there's 6 what we call foundation factors.
Okay. What are those 6?
So I'm going to tell you. So the foundation factors we suggest need to be in place to achieve optimal health. And if you leave one of them out, it's not going to work. It's if you had a 3-legged stool and you took one of the legs away. It's not going to work. So you need them all in place. So the first one are your thoughts. The most important thing are your thoughts. Okay. Now, according to science, about 90% of our thoughts are negative. Now, in a wilderness situation, that's beneficial, because if we're pessimistic in nature, we're looking out for danger. That's a good thing. But in our modern society, unless you're crossing a road or you're walking down a dark alley, you don't really need to be in that state. Now, in order to be healthy, the more positive we are, the more happy we are, the less stress we have, the more healthy we can be. Okay. And also your thoughts drive your behaviors as well. And obviously your behaviors are really important, the choices that you make. So getting your mind right is the most important thing. The second thing is your breathing. Now, most people are going to say, I breathe, so I'm okay.
I'm fine, yeah.
But most people, sadly, breathe incorrectly. So there's something called diaphragmatic breathing. So at rest, when you breathe in, the diaphragm should drop down, your belly should come out. Okay. And then as you breathe out, the tummy comes in, the diaphragm comes back up again. But what most people do when they're breathing is that they'll breathe through the chest, and you might even see their shoulders raise up. Okay. Now that is tied in with a stress response. So that's going to make someone go into almost like a fight or flight type response. Okay.
Just by breathing in and using your chest.
And the other thing is most people breathe too shallow and too fast as well. Okay.
Interesting.
And that can also alter your body's pH levels as well, which again can go on to cause all kinds of problems. So I often have to spend time with people teaching them how to breathe correctly, which I know sounds a bit crazy, but that's the world we live in. Number 3 is hydration. So it's making sure you drink enough, but also drink enough of the right type of water as well. So avoiding things like tap water, it's got chlorine and fluoride in it, etc.
Beautiful. I'm a water snob. I like that one.
The next one is nutrition.
Okay.
And that is about eating good quality food, no junk food, no processed food, and ideally organic food as well. So no pesticides, no hormones, no antibiotics. But also eating right for your individual needs, or what we sometimes call your metabolic type. So we're all biochemically individual. We all have different requirements for nutrients. So I take people on a journey of finding out, or discovering what their right diet is. There's no one diet that fits all. So I go on a journey with people and help them fine tune their diet so that it's right for them.
That's beautiful. So how do you do that? Can you explain it in a short?
Yeah.
How do you get them on that journey? That's fascinating because it makes sense. Just how do you discover that?
Yeah. So I get people to do an online questionnaire. This questionnaire was devised by a guy called William Walcott. He wrote the book, The Metabolic Typing Diet.
Okay.
It's a good friend of mine. And once someone does the questionnaire, it gives you your starting point. It doesn't give you your end point. It gives you a starting point. So it might say there's 6 main different types. There's a 7th type, which is a mix of all of them or a number of them. But let's say it comes back and it says you're a fast oxidizer. Okay, what does that mean? A fast oxidizer is someone who turns nutrients into energy very quickly. So they do better on foods that tend to digest very slowly. So a fast oxidizer will do better on a higher fat, higher protein, lower carbohydrate diet. Whereas a slow oxidizer tends to do well on a higher carbohydrate, lower fat and protein diet. And then there's a mixed type, which is somewhere in the middle. Okay. But once you find your type, again, it's not the end game. You remember the old style radios and you had to dial in, right? 100 FM or 95.8 or whatever it is, right? What I teach people to do is to dial into the right ratios for them. So for each person, there'll be a specific amount of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates that will be right for them at each meal. And it's done very much on, I want to say trial and error, but that sounds a bit unscientific, but it's actually not unscientific at all. It's actually a really good way of doing it. And it normally takes a few weeks for people to get there. of trying different
Yeah,
things.
that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard people doing that. I like
Yeah,
that. What was the book that it was based
the
upon?
metabolic typing diet.
Typing diet, metabolic
Yes,
typing diet. That's
amazing
that's
book.
great. Yeah, I like that. That makes really a lot of sense because you're right. Everybody's body is a little bit different, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
you
the
think,
fact that you're saying not one diet fits all. It makes logical sense. I love
yeah,
that.
how many diets are out there? How many diet
Yeah,
books are out
there's
there,
there's
right? And then some
bazillion
people
of
say,
them.
oh, I tried this diet and it was amazing. And then there'll be just as many people saying, I tried it and
It
I
didn't
didn't get
work.
better. In fact, I got worse, right?
You're right.
That's
Right.
because we are biochemically individual. And there was a book written in 1953 by Dr. Roger Williams that was called Biochemical Individuality. And it explains it all in there. So William Walcott, if you like, is standing on the shoulder of giants, Roger Williams and Weston A. Price and Francis Marion Pottinger and George Watson and William Kelly. So metabolic typing has been devising for about 100 years.
Wow.
And
That's
William Walcott's kind of got the torch at the moment, and he's taken it a long way in the last probably 30, 40 years.
awesome. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So we got through 4, right?
Yeah. So number 5 is movement.
Okay.
And again, it's about doing the right type of movement for you, but also the right amount and the right intensity.
Okay.
So it's important that you understand how much energy you have on any particular day, because it's no good over exercising, because exercise is a stress. But if you add stress to a stressed body, you're just creating more stress. So if someone's in pain, that will probably create more pain. So again, it's about being smart. So for me, exercise and movement is about being smarter, not necessarily harder. There's a time to train hard, of course, and at the right time.
Love it.
So that's movement. I spoke a little bit more about it earlier when I was talking about if something's tight, you've got to stretch it. If something's weak, you've got to strengthen it. And then the 6th one is sleep, or sleep and rest. So making sure that you get adequate sleep, good quality sleep. So for me right now, it's 7:45 p.m. It's dark, so I've got studio lights on, and I've also got the blue blocking light glasses on as well, because blue light is not very good for the release of melatonin. So I'll be going to bed in
I just
a couple
got
of
mine.
hours. There you go. There you go.
Yours are more cool than mine. Mine are just clear.
Getting adequate rest is really important. Getting to sleep on time is really important as well. So again, when you look back at how we evolved as a species, we are awake during the day and we go to sleep at night. So our ancestors would have woken up at dawn when the sun comes up. So we have light receptors on our skin and in our eyes. So as soon as the sun hits our skin, our body starts to secrete stress hormone cortisol. That gets us up and awake and up and ready for the day. But by about midday, that should have really plateaued. And by the time it gets to dusk, we should really be getting ready for sleep. Right?
Interesting.
Obviously, in today's society, that's pretty difficult to do.
Right.
But the general rule we tend to give people is to be in bed by 10 o'clock and get 8 hours sleep. So the later you go to bed, the less physical recovery you're going to get. So our growth hormones tend to peak around sort of 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the evening. So we will only benefit from that if we're asleep. So, and asleep in a dark room as well. So again, if there's any light around, your body will not be releasing melatonin, which obviously not only helps you sleep, but it's the trigger to stimulate your other growth hormones.
It's fascinating.
So sleep is really important. And obviously things like electrical circuits in your bedroom, mobile devices, Wi-Fi, they need to be well out of the way. Okay.
I love it. Literally, just I've had my phone by my bedside for a long time, and so my wife finally just convinced me. I knew she was right, just had never done it. We finally moved ours out of the bedroom. So
that's a good move. It's a good move. But
smart,
also
smart
in terms of rest as well, just honoring yourself that you're not working too hard, you're not working too long hours, you're not over exercising. And really making sure you're giving yourself enough time to replenish energy at the end of every day. Talking of mobile phones, we're a bit like mobile phones, right? If you're using your phone all day long, it's using energy. Well, then overnight you have to recharge it, right? We
Yeah.
have to do the same. We have to recharge our energy. And rather than plugging ourselves into the electric, we go to bed. Okay.
It makes total sense. Yeah. I love it. I love it. This has been fascinating. And lately it's just, wow, I love your 6 points. I love, there's so many things, and the three focused areas that you're working on with your practices is fascinating, because you've learned so many different modalities and so many different things to help people. But you've really learned to specialize in those three areas where you can have a really big impact with people. So I applaud you for that, because that's just really cool. I haven't heard of people doing it that specific way. I think it's really brilliant. I think you're doing amazing things. And how do people get a hold of you, and how do they learn more from you?
Yeah. So my website is www.bodycheck. So that's BODYCHEK.co.uk. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, either my name or my podcast name, which is Radical Health Rebel.
Nice. Radical Health Rebel. That's awesome. So yeah, I love it. I'll make sure that we have all of the links in the show notes so people can easily access you and get to you. But Leigh, thank you so much for taking time on the I Am Pain Free podcast. I think you're going to help a lot of people listening to those points, and I'm real excited for the listeners to start engaging with those, and then hopefully they can reach out to you when they have questions.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, appreciate you very much. So with that, we're going to sign off from the I Am Pain Free podcast. We'll talk to you next week.
Adios.
As many of you know, my focus at the I Am Pain Free podcast is help as many people get pain free as possible. And we strive to use all natural and alternative therapies to accomplish that goal. Well, today I'm thrilled to introduce to you a revolutionary product that aligns perfectly with our mission of natural health and well-being. It's called Exodus by Exodus Strong. At Exodus Strong, their mission is to help you break free from the grip of big pharma and embrace natural solutions that promote vibrant health. With a foundation rooted in the wisdom of the Bible, the all-natural supplement harnesses the power of 7 key ingredients specifically mentioned in the scriptures. The flagship product, Exodus, is designed to be transformational, providing benefits such as energy enhancement, stress relief, blood sugar stabilization, pain relief, and anti-inflammation. So join the movement, right, to help them get 1 million new people to read the Bible every day and transform their health naturally. When you purchase Exodus, use code IAPF at checkout to receive a special free gift with your order. It's time to exit the old you and step into a new chapter of vitality and well-being. To get there, you go to exodusstrong.com. So it's Exodus, EXODUSSTRONG.com. And check out and use that IAPF for the I Am Pain Free podcast. And then you'll experience the benefits of the Exodus mineral blend. This mineral blend is amazing. It's got the molecular hydrogen generating formula that's backed by hundreds of scientific studies. So begin your journey feeling great and looking great. Don't miss the opportunity to take control of your health with the all natural way. So go check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it.